Today I want to share a story that didn't happen in a house, or an apartment, or even a hotel. It happened in a place you're supposed to feel safe, precisely because it's always moving. It happened in my truck. For the last 7 years, I've been a long-haul trucker. Life is the road, the hum of the diesel, and the cramped but familiar space of my rigged sleeper cab. It's a solitary life, and you get used to your own company, to the rhythm of the wheels on asphalt as your only lullaby. But 2 winters ago, on a run through the sprawling empty stretches of interstate in Utah, that solitude was shattered in a way I still can't fully explain. It started with the food. I'm a creature of habit. I stock my small fridge with specific things: a 6-pack of a certain soda, 2 pre-made sandwiches from a particular truck stop chain, and a bag of those red licorice twists. One morning, after a night parked at a desolate rest area, under a sky choked with stars, I opened the fridge. One of my sandwiches was gone. Not misplaced, gone. The wrapper was in the trash. I must have eaten it in a drowsy haze and forgotten. The mind plays tricks on you during those 3 a.m. moments. But the next day, a licorice twist was missing. Then a soda. Small things. Things that could be explained by fatigue, by autopilot. But the pattern was wrong. I didn't sleep eat, and I sure as hell wouldn't open a soda and not remember the fizz. Then came the sounds, not the normal creaks and groans of a settling truck. This was a soft, rhythmic scrape, like fabric on fabric. It seemed to come from the very back of the sleeper berth, behind the curtain that separated it from the driver's seat. I'd spin around, yank the curtain back, and shine my flashlight into the dark cubby where I stored my duffel bag and extra blankets. Just my own gear, seemingly undisturbed. I started sleeping with the curtain open, the dim cab lights left on. The silence felt heavier then, watchful. The real turning point was the temperature. I keep the cab thermostat at a steady 68 degrees. One night, I woke up shivering, my breath fogging in the air. The display read 55. I fumbled with the controls, blaming a faulty system. But as the cab warmed up, I caught a faint, new smell cutting through the usual scents of old coffee and diesel. It was a smell like damp earth, and something sweetly metallic, like a penny and wet leaves. It coiled in the air for a few minutes before the circulation system washed it away. I was now on high alert, jumping at every shadow cast by passing headlights. I began a ritualistic inspection every time I stopped. I'd clamber out, walk a full circle around the rig, check the locks on the trailer, even peek underneath with my flashlight. Nothing ever seemed to miss. The logical part of my brain, the part that had navigated a million lonely miles, insisted it was isolation playing havoc with my senses. The other part, the primal part, was screaming that my sanctuary had been breached. The climax happened near the Utah-Nevada border. Exhaustion finally overpowered my paranoia, and I pulled into a massive, well-lit truck stop just after midnight. It was bustling, an island of light and life. I felt safe enough to actually sleep. I did my now constant check, saw nothing, and locked the cab doors securely before collapsing into my bunk. I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. And then I woke up. Not to a sound, but to a sensation. The sensation of the bunk depressing slightly, as if weight had settled near my feet. Scared, my eyes snapped open. The cab was dark, the only light a sickly green glow from the dashboard. I didn't move a muscle. I just listened. Over the thrum of my own heartbeat in my ears, I heard it, breathing. Slow, deliberate, and not my own. It was coming from the foot of my bunk. I lay there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity. Part of me hoping it was a dream. Another part dying a slow death with every soft, shared breath in that dark space. Then I had to know. With a movement so slow it was painful, I shifted my hand under the blanket, inching it toward the small penlight I kept on the shelf beside me. My fingers closed around the cold metal. I took the deepest, quietest breath I could, and then I snapped it on, pointing the beam toward my feet. The light hit a shape, a hunched, humanoid shape, curled like a child at the end of my bed. It was wrapped in a dark, grimy blanket I didn't recognize, its face buried in my spare pillow. For a second, Nothing happened. Then, as if sensing the light, its head began to turn. It was slow, unnervingly slow. I didn't see a face. I saw only a shock of matted dark hair and a single pale eye that reflected the penlight like an animal's. It just stared, unblinking. Panic. I didn't scream. A raw, guttural sound erupted from my throat as I scrambled backwards, my back slamming against the cab wall. The person uncoiled with a terrifying serpentine grace. It wasn't a man. It was too thin, its movements too fluid. It slid off the bunk and dropped into the small space between the bed and the driver's seat, landing without a sound. It stood there, shrouded in that dirty blanket, its head slightly tilted, still watching me with that one visible eye. Then it moved. Not toward me, but toward the passenger side door. Its hand, pale and long-fingered, reached out and touched the door lock. With a click that was deafening in the silence, it unlocked. It pulled the handle, swung the door open, and a blast of cold desert air flooded the cab. It paused on the step, looked back at me over its shoulder for one final endless second, and then dropped into the night, melting into the maze of parked trucks and shadows. I sat there, heart hammering against my ribs, for 10 minutes maybe. Then a surge of adrenaline-fueled rage took over. I grabbed my tire thumper, launched myself out of the cab, and searched every inch of the parking lot. Nothing. It was just gone. I drove the remaining 5 hours to my delivery in Reno, in a complete daze, every shadow in my mirrors holding potential terror. I reported it to the truck stop security, who filed a report with local police. They were polite, skeptical. No signs of forced entry on my cab. Nothing stolen but some snacks. They suggested a homeless person must have snuck in while I was inside the plaza. A simple, logical explanation. But it didn't explain how it got in past locked doors. It didn't explain the feeling of that weight on my bed, or the way it moved, or the chilling calm in that single visible eye. It didn't explain why it was there in the first place. Here's the part that haunts me the most. The detail that keeps me awake some nights even now. After the police left, once the shaking stopped, I forced myself to inspect the cab thoroughly. In the very back, deep behind my duffel bag where I never looked, I found a small, neat nest made from my own spare packing blankets, and tucked within it, like some perverse offering, was an empty wrapper from one of my licorice twists, and a single long dark hair that was not mine. This person, this thing, hadn't just broken in for a night. It had been riding with me. For days, maybe. Sharing my space, my food, my air. Watching me sleep. Learning my routines from a distance of just a few feet. The horror isn't just in the confrontation. It's in the violation that preceded it. The silent, unseen occupation of the one place I called my own. You trust the lock on your door, the walls of your home. But what about the door that moves? The walls that carry you from one empty horizon to another. Sometimes, the most terrifying thing isn't what's waiting for you out there in the dark. It's what you've already unknowingly brought along for the ride. See you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe,